Okay, let's jump right in. For decades, really, the popular image of Neanderthals hasn't exactly been flattering, has it? Sort of stuck in that primitive cave dweller mold.
That's definitely been the stereotype, yeah. Stubbornly persistent.
But new discoveries, like the one we're talking about today, they're not just tweaking that picture, are they? They seem to be, I don't know, completely rewriting the script.
Radically rewriting it, I'd say. This is a big shift.
So today we're doing a deep dive into something pretty astonishing. What seems to be the earliest known multifunctional tool, and it's carved from, get this, a cave lion bone,
Incredible, isn't it?
found in Belgium, Scladina Cave. And we're talking about 130,000 years ago, roughly. Right at the end of the Saalian glaciation, people are calling it a prehistoric Swiss Army knife.
It's a good analogy, actually. It really captures the versatility.
So our mission today is to really unpack this tool's story. What does it tell us about Neanderthal smarts, their cognitive abilities, and also that fascinating, probably pretty dangerous relationship between ancient humans and, well, the giant predators of the Ice Age?
And it's amazing how one single object, this bone tool, can force us to rethink so much.
Sure.
It was very carefully carved from a single cave lion tibia, the shin bone.
Okay, the tibia. And it wasn't just like a one-trick pony, right? You said multifunctional.
Exactly. It had, well, you could say it had multiple lives, multiple careers.
Multiple careers. Okay, tell me more. What was its first life?
So the evidence, the marks on the bones, strongly suggest it started out doing things like chiseling.
Chiseling. Okay.
But then, and this is key, it was deliberately broken and repurposed, given a second life.
So clear evidence of intentional modification and repurposing. That's significant in itself. What was its second act?
Its second act was as a retoucher. Now, for you listening, think of it maybe like a specialized sharpening steel or a honing rod, but used for flint tools, giving them that critical sharp edge.
Okay, like fine-tuning their stone toolkit.
Precisely. And the bone itself, it's like a history book. It's got these clear physical signs, deliberate shaping, obvious use marks, pits and scores across the surface. And then under the microscope, you see this telltale polish, microscopic chipping, right at the edges where it was used.
So beyond those visible marks, what else did they find? Like the smoking gun evidence for how it was used?
Yeah, the microscopic details are crucial here. They found these tiny embedded lithic chips, like microscopic stone fragments, stuck right on the working surface.
Wow.
And when they analyzed those chips, they found a silicon peak.
Silicon. So flint.
Exactly. Direct evidence it was being used on siliceous rocks like slate.
Yay.
It connects the tool directly to stone tool maintenance.
That is incredible. It's like, yeah, forensic archaeology from 130,000 years ago. And the location, Scladina Cave, that's important too, I imagine. It wasn't found in isolation.
Oh, absolutely crucial. Scladina Cave is a genuine treasure trove. This tool is just one piece. It's the same site where they found the amazingly well-preserved remains of that 8-year-old Neanderthal girl.
It's Scladina child, right, around 127,000 years old.
That's the one. And alongside her, thousands and thousands of flint tool fragments. So it gives us this incredibly rich context, shows long-term, consistent Neanderthal occupation.
Okay, so we've got this super versatile tool found in this context-rich cave. But what does it really tell us? Because like we said, that old image of Neanderthals is, well, it's not great. Does this tool really help shatter that stupid brute myth?
I think it delivers a pretty powerful blow, yes.
Yeah.
The authors of the study, they're quite explicit about this. They say the intentional transformation, the deliberate making of these tools from lion bones, it demonstrates significant cognitive skills. It wasn't just grabbing any old bone. It shows adaptability, planning, and resource use that goes, as they put it, beyond their immediate survival needs. This is thinking ahead. This is, well, engineering.
Intentional engineering, you said earlier. What does that look like for Neanderthals? I mean, were they following a kind of mental template or like a blueprint?
That's a great way to put it. The study talks about the chaîne opératoire bit of jargon, but it basically means a structured operational sequence, a planned series of steps.
Okay.
This wasn't just random whacking on a bone. It was deliberate, sequential, almost like an assembly line process for making the tool.
A prehistoric assembly line. I like that.
And what's really telling is that the sequence of steps they used for this lion bone tool, it's identical to the steps they used for other bone tools found right there in the cave, like ones made from, say, bear bones.
So it suggests a consistent method, a learned technique.
Exactly. A sophisticated, probably taught approach to tool making, and they adapted it, whether the material was lion bone, bear bone, maybe even others.
Okay, that makes sense. But then, if Neanderthals and cave lions were around together for hundreds of thousands of years, why is this kind of evidence specifically using their bones for tools? Why is it so rare? You hear about maybe butchering sites, but tools seem less common.
That's a really good question, and it highlights why this Scladina find is such a big deal. You're right, evidence for actually making tools consistently from large carnivore bones has been, well, exceptionally scarce. Most previous sites might show signs of skinning, maybe getting some meat, but this sustained planned tool production from a lion bone, it suggests a much deeper, more resourceful kind of interaction than we generally assumed.
And it makes you wonder why this bone, why a cave lion tibia specifically? Was it just conveniently lying around?
The research suggests definitely not. It looks like a very deliberate choice.
Okay.
The tibia, the shin bone, its particular size, its shape, its structural strength, it made it pretty much perfect for the kind of tasks they needed it for, both the chiseling and the retouching.
So form followed function.
Exactly. They did this morphometric analysis, basically measuring the shape and size meticulously. And it showed the Neanderthals were prioritizing the blank bone's properties, its size and shape, more than what animal it came from.
Interesting.
They wanted the best ergonomics, the best efficiency for the tool. It points strongly towards what the researchers call a function-driven technological tradition.
Right, function-driven, not symbolism-driven. They weren't choosing it because it was a lion, for some ritual purpose.
The tool itself doesn't suggest that. They chose it because it was the best available material with the right properties for the job they had in mind. Pragmatism.
Which, okay, that leads us to the massive question. How on earth did they get a cave lion tibia in the first place? These animals were huge, dangerous apex predators.
The million-dollar question, isn't it?
The study mentions the bone fragments all belong to one adult lion, right?
Yeah.
And there are no signs of, like, natural damage, erosion, weathering, or gnaw marks from other animals.
Correct. That lack of natural alteration is key. Instead, what you do see are clear anthropogenic modifications.
Human fingerprints, basically.
Essentially, yes. Fractures, cut marks, things that show humans processed the carcass and that it was relatively fresh when they did it. And the fact that they could refit broken pieces back together, that strongly points to deliberate processing in the caves, not just finding some old scraps scavenged by hyenas.
Okay, so the most likely story is Neanderthals deliberately brought at least part of a cave lion carcass into Scladina Cave.
That seems the most plausible scenario, yes.
But how they got it. And that's where the speculation starts, right? Was it hunted? Was it scavenged right after it died somehow? Or maybe they found one injured or chased it off a kill.
All possibilities are on the table, and it's hard to know for sure. Hunting a full-grown cave lion, I mean, the risk involved would have been immense.
You'd think that level of risk could imply something symbolic, like prestige for the hunters.
You could certainly argue that, and acquiring a lion, however it happened, was undoubtedly a high-risk, high-skill activity. But again, the tool itself, the end product they made from the bone, its design seems purely functional. They weren't making a lion tooth necklace or ritual object. They were making an efficient retoucher. So while getting the lion might have had social implications, the use of the bone points squarely back to utility and pragmatism. It shows incredible flexibility in how they saw and used resources.
This whole thing really is like a prehistoric detective story. And it's only solvable because of modern science, isn't it? How do scientists figure all this out from bits of bone that are 130,000 years old?
It's honestly mind-blowing sometimes. Take just identifying the species. Bone fragments can look really similar, especially when they're broken or worn. Distinguishing lion from, say, cave bear morphologically can be tough.
Right.
So they use these amazing biomolecular techniques. One is called ZooMS, that's zooarchaeology by mass spectrometry. It analyzes the collagen protein, which is unique enough to act like a fingerprint for different animal species.
Protein fingerprinting. Wow.
Yeah. And they also use things like LC-MSMS, liquid chromatography, mass spectrometry, for even more detailed protein analysis. These let them say with certainty, yep, this is Panthera spelaea, the cave lion.
That's incredible precision. And what about figuring out how the tool was used? You mentioned microscopy before.
Exactly. Microwear analysis is key there. It involves looking at the tool surface under very high magnification. You can see the specific types of polish, the direction of scratches, the tiny fractures, and compare them to experimental tools used on known materials. It directly links the Scladina tool's wear patterns to the action of rubbing against flint. And then there's compositional analysis.
Like finding the silicon.
Right. using techniques like EDX, energy dispersive X-ray spectroscopy. That's how they detected the silicon in those tiny embedded stone chips, confirming contact with flinty material. It all builds a very robust case.
And it all circles back to Scladina Cave providing such a fantastic record. That deep, well-preserved stratigraphy going back something like 400,000 years. That must be invaluable for placing these finds in time.
Absolutely critical. The excellent preservation lets scientists precisely date the layers and understand the context within the broader Middle Paleolithic, the time of the Neanderthals, specifically the Mousterian tool culture found there.
And is this lion bone tool completely unique, or are there other examples of Neanderthals using carnivore bones?
Well, it's unique in its multifunctionality and the species involved, certainly for this period. But it does build on some previous, though rarer, evidence. For instance, I believe there are some much older finds from Germany, maybe Schoningen, involving saber-toothed cat bones, possibly used as tools by earlier hominins.
Okay, so exploiting carnivores wasn't entirely unheard of, but this Scladina tool seems particularly sophisticated.
Exactly. It shows a level of planning, repurposing, and specific technological choice that really stands out. It's not just using a bone, it's engineering with bone.
Wow. Well, this deep dive has, I think, really shifted my perspective. We've looked at this incredible multifunctional tool made from a top predator's bone. We've seen clear evidence of Neanderthal planning, their resourcefulness, and we've touched on that complex, dangerous dance between them and the cave lions.
It just completely dismantles that old, frankly unfair image, doesn't it? We're looking at truly innovative, highly adaptive people, hominins with advanced cognitive abilities. They were masters of their environment, capable of sophisticated technology and resource management, even under the harsh conditions of an ice age.
They weren't just scraping by.
None at all. They were problem-solving, planning, innovating, thriving in many ways.
So maybe the final thought for you, our listener, to chew on is this. What does it really tell us about, I suppose, human nature, or at least the nature of our deep past, that even when faced with the absolute fiercest predators imaginable, our ancestors didn't just see danger, they also saw, well, the raw materials for innovation. Something to think about.